sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Welcome to a redundant version of Security Guy Radio with Chuck, Charlie Harold, and Paul.
Perambulating Bristow.
Perambulating. Touche, my friend. You finally came up with a new word. I'm very impressed.
We'll find out why in a minute.
We will. Very good. Do you know what it means? I happen to know what it means.
Well, I pulled it up on the dictionary. Yes.
With the immense command of the British language, you had to look up perambulating. Well, at least you're not a tintinabulator, which is another thing.
That's right.
So we're going to call this show today the Trade of Trade Shows Trade. That's kind of hard to say, isn't it? But it really is something we're going to talk about. It makes sense because we're going to talk about...
especially when you're Irish and you've had a drink, right?
Well, it is difficult. You're going to be more confused today because there are two Chucks and two Pauls on the show. That's even more confusing. But we're going to get through it all. And I want to welcome our special guest, Charles Andrews. Charles, you there?
I'm here.
All right, excellent. Chuck,
hello, Charles.
Chuck.
All good. Chuck, Texas, and Chuck, California.
That's right. So, yeah, you're calling from Texas, and we're doing a show about trade shows today, and it's appropriate because, of course, ASIS starts in a couple weeks. And, of course, the Texas Nights 2015 show starts down there at Anaheim at Tortilla Joe, September 27th, I believe, correct?
That's correct. At 7 p.m. Don't be late.
Now, I just happened to pull up some stats for you guys on trade shows. What's your feeling on trade shows, Chuck? What do you think about them?
So I love trade shows. What a great opportunity. Everybody gets together from around the world, gets a chance to network, build relationships, and do business together. I think they're a must, especially in the security industry.
I was leaning the other way because I'm totally social media. That's my thing. And I was very surprised to hear some of these stats. And Mr. Bristow, you can pipe in and comment on this. So 45% of attendees don't plan to participate at any other exhibits or exhibitions in 1 year. So if you go to, half of the people go to one trade show a year. So if that's your potential market, you better hit it right because they're not going to go to another one. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, 84.
Is that any particular field or is that everything?
No, let's just say you're, an ASIS guy. You're probably only going to go to ASIS. You're not going to go to ISC West, which is another trade show. 50% of them are not going to go to the two security trade shows, right? And then we have 84%. This is under net buying influences. 84% of attendees have the power to make financial decisions. So 84% of the people going to these shows can write you a check and buy your product, which I found very surprising and high. So they're decision makers. And those are the people you're always trying to get to.
Yeah.
So the question is, why can't you get to the decision maker when you're calling them on the phone? And obviously it doesn't work, and that's why they do this. 38%.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because when they're at a trade show, they're actually looking for something.
Yeah,
they're focused in on finding what they want.
Right. So Chuck,
that's the whole beauty of trade shows.
Chuck in Texas, you got 30,000 members in Friends of Chuck, right?
Absolutely, all good friends.
And what percentage of those you think are going to be your buyers? Probably half of those people at least, or the people that go out and buy.
Yeah, I really like to think when it comes to a buying decision, I think that number is probably correct in the 80th percentile. But these buyers this is all based on relationships.
It is. That's the trick.
What relationship do you have with people? And that's why the most important part of ASIS International's conference is Texas Night.
Yeah,
that's where all the relationships happen.
It's the people. 38%.
Exactly.
This is interesting, Paul. 38% of the attendees are first-timers to that particular event. Now, that was interesting. So there was 25,000 people at ASIS Atlanta, and now we're going to ASIS Anaheim, and 38% of those people, in theory, are first-time attendees to ASIS.
And that's important because what other opportunity we have to get in front of that 38% if you don't show up?
It's the brand new person, right. Now, how much time do you think, on average, a person visiting attends the show? How many hours do they spend walking around and interacting? Take it.
I reckon 3 hours.
No, actually, much higher. 9.1 hours.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, 9.1 hours or 2.3 days per show is on average of what they spend looking around. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, see, I was just referring to me, you know.
Well, I'm thinking instead of hours, it takes me about 3.5 pairs of shoes to do the entire exhibit.
Oh, it's huge.
Exactly.
I mean, it takes hours, yeah. So top trade shows at 212. Guess what? Highest traffic density, as is not in there in the top 10. I thought it would be. But interestingly enough, as is in the top 10 of the highest net buying influences. So people that go to as is are spending money, opposed to other places where
that's important. That's important to know because it's all about the density and quality.
Density and quality. So a lot of people are going to other shows like the RSA conference, VMworld, Info.com, whatever these things are that I've never heard of, but they're spending the money at as is. Most hours attended spent visiting exhibits. National Association of Broadcasters, Paul, which we used to go to.
Yeah.
Fox and Disney, right?
That was good. Now on the as real quick on the as is one, is there anything there that's to say where they're actually spending their money? Is it on the guard side, on the system side?
It doesn't break it down. Oh, my microphone fell down here. Hold on a second. It doesn't break it down, but since most of those people that are attending that are decision makers, I'm not sure it matters where they spend it as long as they spend it because it seems like it benefits everybody across the board. Let's see what's another one. Most hours. Okay, here's a good one. Most hours attendees spend visiting exhibits. NABIT's number 1, 15 hours. But number 10 is the International Woodworking Fair. Those guys spend 10 hours looking at their wood. That was kind of interesting. I mean, so you wonder why they have it, but I mean, if that's the only place you can go. What are the top 3 cities for trade shows?
Vegas.
Got it.
Yep.
Los Angeles, Orlando, Vegas.
It's Las Vegas, Chicago, and Orlando. LA's not even on the list, which is interesting.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, I don't think.
Well, it's, we
haven't really got that good of convention places, have we, really, in LA?
Well, as my Irish Uncle Jack used to say, if God was going to give the world an enema, he'd stick it in Los Angeles. So I think that's probably something to say about that. Mr. Jarvis, my microphone seems to keep falling down here. We have a little technical difficulty, but I will muddle through. All right, a couple other stats. 90% of trade show attendees have not been called upon previous to attending the show. Now, that's interesting. 90%.
So what does that mean?
Well, that means that BlueHive, who's going to be our guest in a minute, has not called. No, that's still not working on the microphone there. They have not called upon a client to say, hey, would you like to buy my product? So,
okay.
So
yeah. I always
Pelco,
found that interesting. I mean, I always get something, like this one coming up, the as is. I mean, I always get some invites, come and see our booth, that type of thing.
Right.
But, yeah, you're right. If you don't reach out to people, they don't have a plan, and then they wander around these exhibits not knowing what the hell they're doing.
90% of them. That's a lot.
46%.
46% of the decision makers made a purchase while attending the show. Now, that's huge. I did not expect people to be buying during that time.
Great. That's what's impulse buying. That's what you want.
Right.
That's why you got to be there, if you get to see the latest and the greatest.
92% come to see what's new. Right, so that's interesting. That's what I do. I come to see what the latest technical things are at as is, right?
Yeah. I do too as well.
Now, the
You
cost
don't know until you get there.
the cost of face-to-face contact with the prospect is $142. So if I'm spending $50,000 on a trade show booth, my return is it's about $142 per visit, right? But a face-to-face sales call, according to these statistics, costs the prospect office $259. So it's more because I guess you're paying the commission to the sales guy or something like that. But that was very interesting too. 78% of all trade show attendees travel more than 400 miles to attend an exhibition. I did not know that 99. It's very interesting. And 99% of marketers said they found unique value that they did not get from other marketing mediums. Now, what's interesting about that is I've been contacted at the last 2 ASIS shows by the advertising companies that represent these people, right? That represent the people doing the show. And they're trying to get their clients interested in social media, and they can't get them interested. They're like, well, we don't need a Twitter account. We don't need to do that. That's not going to be of value to us. And they're coming on my show, but they're still thinking that the guy at the booth is more important. But if 9,000 people listen to our show on Monday, Paul, there's not 9,000 people visiting a booth, right?
That's correct.
It's not going to happen. So I think this
But it's not face to face, is it?
It's not face to face, right? So the face to face, I think, is what makes the sale. So I'm back on positive for trade shows. So maybe Security Guy Radio should get a booth.
Yeah.
But as usual, we don't know anything about this stuff at Security Guy Radio. That's why we have a radio show, because nobody will pay us to actually give them advice anymore. So we bring in the experts, like Mr. Paul Hanlon, the president and CEO of BlueHive. At BlueHive.
Yeah.
Paul, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now let's talk about your website. It's not bluehive.com. It's blue-hive.com. That's very important.
That's correct.
Right.
Thank you.
blue-hive.com. We'll say that a couple times during the show. So tell us, what does BlueHive do? I find this fascinating. We know that your company and other companies like this produce these things, but nobody really thinks about it. They just think it all magically shows up and there's a giant booth in the middle of ASIS for Securitas, and it just magically happened. But a lot of work behind that, and that's really what your company does, right?
That's correct. I know we're going to talk about social media in a second, but we design, we build, we ship, we store, we do everything a client needs to do to get to the show. But I'm going to jump a little forward here. But what we're starting to do today is recognize we do things that we go from physical to digital now.
So you're handling social media for the clients as well as building the booth.
Absolutely. So, but I keep me in control here because I can go all over the place. But I mean, trade shows have been around since the days of Christ.
Right.
And they will never go away. Your statistics, pretty much most of them that you've shared with us today have been with us for some 20 some odd years. And that's why they just always work. People still need to touch people. They still have to look into somebody's eyes, because probably one of the greatest human desires is to be safe. You'll buy a product from a company you feel most safe with, and the best way to be feeling safe is to meet somebody.
Well, that's an excellent point. So it's not the widget, it's the relationship.
It is. Then the difference is at a trade show is much like Vegas, if you will. It's a lot of white noise or candy out there, and you're trying to attract somebody who's at the show, as you mentioned, possibly for the first time, to say, please visit our booth. Here's our products. Here's why our product has advantages compared to our competitors. And really, if you don't have an attractive booth, why visit? As much as why would you go into a dimly lit Vegas casino versus something that's better lit and more attractive?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Thus, the trade show girls with the bikinis or whatever at the car shows, whatever they're doing, that stuff works, I guess, right? I mean,
it works for me.
Wow, there you go. Mr. Paul Bristow, the canary in the coal mine, testing the premise. All right.
Yep. It is true. It's still people getting out there and having fun, and meeting people, and then having the opportunity to shake somebody's hand so that when someone does finally make the phone call or the follow-up, you can draw a sort of a visual of their face while you're on the phone with them.
Now, I'm curious how, and I couldn't find any specific stats on this, Paul, or Chuck, on the security industry, right? In the security industry, more than any other industry, you have to feel safe with that guy because the whole show is about safety.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the people in that business tend to be 5-6 years behind some of the trends in social media. Do you think that helps them or hurts them? Or in that business, do they need to be in social media as opposed to National Association of Broadcasters, which is all technical? You absolutely have to be in that space because it's a technical business.
Is that for Paul Hanlon?
Yeah, Paul Hanlon, yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. I still remember my very first fax machine. There's a point where that was a really cool product back in 1985 when I first got my first. There are just things, if people do not keep up with the particular electronics of the time, they're going to fall behind. We all take for granted fax machines, but I still remember the day there were no fax machines.
Well, I've got you beat because I had a mimeograph machine.
God bless you.
Remember those? And I still had one in my garage up to about 10 years ago, and I opened up one of those cans, and I think I was going to get arrested for a contact high from that fluid they used to use in those things. They were amazing. But I have kid the security industry because it's funny. They go to these shows with these really high-tech things that are coming out in security now, but some of the actual buyers can't even use them because they're a demographic where that's too new for them and that kind of thing. And when I think it was ASIS last year in Atlanta, there was 5 people using hashtag ASIS for Instagram, right? I was one of them. I mean, it just wasn't something they thought was of value. So I like your vision that you're going to, in essence, BlueHive's going to become a production company. Is that a good way to describe it?
That we're going to walk in and be those people they don't know. One, I guess you say haven't hired yet, but we are going to be the ones that will do it for them because they basically don't have the knowledge right now and probably don't have the time.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of time. I got 9 social media sites, and it does take a lot of time, hours in a day for our little show here. So I can see that. And when you go to some of these ad agencies that have contacted me, what they say is, they can't get the big exhibit company to use it, or B, they don't understand what's going on with that. So I like your premise that you're gonna, or your proposition that you're gonna make this a turnkey operation, very much like Paul and I used to do at the studios. A production company came in, and there's the guy who has a job to bring in the Snickers bars, and all the way down the line, everybody's got a job, and they all make it happen without seemingly any fuss. It works out really well. So tell us some of the shows that you guys participate in, what the different challenges are, and then we're going to come back around to security because we're talking about security. But you do more than just security trade shows, obviously.
BlueHive?
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be embarrassed to tell you. I can't remember how many are the names of companies. We're PGA shows, medical shows, pharmaceutical shows. God bless. We are everywhere. I'm sorry to be so.
No, that's okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. So if we're taking, here's a perfect example, Paul. Maybe Security Guy Radio wants a BlueHive exhibit built. What would BlueHive recommend to Security Guy Radio to put a booth out at ASIS and give us a presence in our industry? How would that benefit me? And it's not a joke because I've actually thought about it. I just don't have $40,000 to plop down for a space. But how might something like that benefit somebody like me that wants to first time, get into that? Especially since you're going to handle everything for me, and I don't have to hire 5 different companies to do 5 different things.
Well, actually, first off, let's just say that $40,000. The only way you're going to do it is if you feel there's going to be revenue created, your return on an investment. You would spend it if you felt you're going to make $500,000 doing it. But technically, if you have determined within your own company that, hey, here's the market we need to go after. We have to invest. We've got to be loud. We have to make some noise. Honestly, we'll take whatever budget's provided. We look at the space you're going to take, who your competitors are, where you are in comparison to your competitors on the show site. How do we attract more people based on the aisle you're on? Then we get to the point where you've accepted a design. We worked out the budget. Now we're going to go. Now we're probably 3 or 4 months out, give or take. And if we're part of your branding, we then will attack social media to tell people you're going to be there. Here's what you can expect to see, and after visiting us, here's what you can expect to receive by visiting us. But we're pounding them daily because you can't obviously capture them with one shot. So we have a team here that just does it 24/7.
So you're going to help me with the analytics.
Absolutely, Matt. We did our own show where we actually were in Denver, and we were what are the facts? We were the second most powerful social media driver in the world, leading folks to our space in Denver. What date was? I'm drawing a blank. Where we're exhibitor live, where our company exhibiting our booth, branding ourselves, doing our own social media. We're the second most impactful, how do I say it? Too many words, social media driver in the world at the time. And we also won Best of Show.
Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah. Paul, I've got a question for you. So, do you, one of the things that I've noticed, especially at the systems type of, shows, ASIS and ICS West, I've noticed people standing there looking at these booths with a glazed look on their eyes because they obviously have got no idea what the hell these people are talking about. Do you, you see it all the time, don't you?
That's true.
Because, do you advise your clients as to how to put their product forward for the type of people that are going to that show?
Yeah, we do. What we try to do is work with them. But remember, we're sort of handcuffed a little bit based on how much courage they have.
That's a good way to say it.
It is, because everyone's got a boss, and everyone's got some concerns. But at our HCEA show where we attended, again, our booth, we had a live bee demonstration in our booth. That takes courage.
Yes, and
It drew a lot of people to our booth to see bees making honey.
and an epinephrine pen, by the way.
I know, well, oddly enough, I know you say that, but these bees don't sting, because I had to make damn certain they didn't.
Well, you could end up with what happened at Warner Brothers when they were making the bee film and they all escaped. And for the last 20 years, they've had swarms of bees.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember.
Well, honestly, being the CEO, my first thing is insurance.
That's right. That's right.
But we did have an in-case live bee demonstration that you could literally knock over, and the bees would not go anywhere, because these are the same things. Because again, it takes courage. But we also went and found a company that does the same thing for grade school children. These are the same things they bring into schools.
All right.
So I made certain it was safe. But going back to your premise, we have to get sometimes our clients out of their comfort zone and say, trust us, it's going to be beautiful, it's get their attention, and those honestly who trust us win.
So there's a guy here in L.A. that Bay Alarm, and you hear Bay Alarm on the radio on any channel you turn on in the morning. He must play, I don't know, 5-6 different stations, drive time. And from what I know about radio, not security guy radio, by the way, but regular radio, the guy's probably plopping down $30,000 every 6 months for these commercials. And I'm thinking he's not going to spend that kind of money if he's not making $60,000 or $100,000 or whatever he's making, right?
Right.
So if you have a big place like Panasonic that's going to plop down $50,000 for the biggest booth in the whole operation, and my statistics here say that 46% of the time there's a sale, that's the math. There's a return on that investment. Now, they're Panasonic, right? So people know that product and recognition and so on. If you have a brand new client, how do you convince them that this is, you got to jump in. You have to get rid of your fear factor. You have to let us help you out here. What do you use to persuade them that, this is going to get a return for them?
Because Panasonic's going to be there.
Oh, that's a good point. So they're coming. People are coming because the big guy's there and you're next to him.
That's correct.
All right.
That's correct. But you have another statistic I want to jump on for a second, because I agree with you. But you have to realize if 38% of the attendees are brand new, that's a hell of a number.
Well, that's true.
Four shows a year, 40% of those people you haven't met yet.
That's right, because I'm probably not going to go to only one show a year on that side of the statistic. But if you're going to 4 shows as the seller, you got 100% of the people you never saw before. That's very interesting.
That's correct. Think about it.
Very
so really, you can walk in as a small-time beginning company, but if working with us, we'll say, look, here are all the other players that are going to be there. Here's where they're situated. We want to put you on this aisle. You'll take up a smaller space, but it's more expensive, but you're going to get more traffic, because those who want to go to see Panasonic have got to go right by you.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, one thing I find when I'm walking around doing interviews is I try to find the unique in ASIS, let's say, I try to find the unique vendor or product that I hadn't seen before. I think when I was in Atlanta, I interviewed 10 people, and 8 of them were from Canada, just by coincidence. These products all came out of Canada. It was very interesting. But I wasn't particularly grabbed by any display that said, oh, that's a product I have to look into. I had to kind of look at it, stop, read some stuff. And surprisingly, I was not engaged immediately by most people in the booth. They let me kind of just look around, see what was going on. Then I said, hey, what specifically do you guys do? And then they came out with some kind of pitch. So do you help them with that sales aspect or, engaging, or do you actually hire, people that are maybe a good talker? Maybe they don't know the technical part of it, but they can get you into the booth. Hurry, step right up. You need one of those guys to get you in the door, right?
Actually, no. Personally, what we try to do is train the given staff from the company. They know the products better than anybody. But there's some real basic, I can get it depending upon the product, but I'll give you some basics. One, there should never be a chair in the booth.
Oh, I see a lot of chairs. I see a lot of chairs in booths.
They should never be. In our shows we do, no one ever sits.
Okay.
You want to be engaging. You want to be available. People, generally speaking, don't want to bother you if you're sitting down.
Good point.
You should limit your tables, limit your stools. People tend to hide behind them because they feel it's like a safety zone. So if you put people out onto the perimeter with a nice smile and a welcoming handshake, people will feel more comfortable walking into your booth. Now, that's some basics. The rest of it comes down to product development and where we place it. But people.
What about all the giveaways, Paul?
Well, we gave away stuff.
And the golf games and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, does that work?
It depends. What we try to do is the product you give away, we try to make certain it applies back to the brand of the company, because a pen is meaningless. Our own case in point, if you check out our website, we have a little bee doll we call Buzz. So we're handing out our stuffed animals that literally will end up either being chewed up by their pet dog, given to their child, or on someone's desk. But it applies to us, and it makes somebody smile when we hand it to them. But it's brand related.
So, I mean, one of the stories I always tell people about brand stuff, and Chuck's heard this before, is when I was at Fox, somebody had given me a coaster, and it was a private investigator company, and I'd had that coaster sitting there for a year with me coffee on it, and one day the PI company that I was using couldn't come through, and I picked up the coffee to have a drink, and there was this guy's PI number. And I called him, and he worked solely for us for the next 15 years.
And took over my job.
And then did all the work.
Yeah, nice work, Paul. Nice one on that.
But it's also, let's go back to, I do a lot of philanthropic work, and we do a lot of things here in the company, give back to society locally. I can't tell you, and I appreciate the gift of a golf shirt back to me or a hat, but if the logo is obnoxiously large, I'm not going to wear it.
Good point.
If the shirt is a low-quality shirt, though I appreciate the gift, I'm not going to wear it. Even when we promote our own company, BlueHive, we are handing out $80 golf shirts with a very minimal logo, so somebody will actually wear it because it's a high-end shirt. Our golf hats are, again, a minimal logo, but it's a high-end Nike golf cap. So the things you want to give away, such as a coaster, should have staying power.
Now, this is very insightful.
Well, that's a good point.
Very insightful. And when I speak to my ad agency friends, they know a lot of the stuff you're talking about as well. But in one way, they don't know some of this stuff. Right? Their job sometimes can be more of, "Hi, I'm Betsy from ABC Advertising Company, and we like to get my client into your security magazine. Can we handle that?" That's not a creative function. That's a clerk function.
That's correct.
I hear a lot of creativity coming out of your side of it. How did you get into this business? Where'd you get that creative background from?
Having to make a living.
That's always a good motivation. That's a very good motivation.
I didn't go to college. I accepted a job as a salesman selling a real tiny little portable exhibit. And honestly, just newly married and realizing I had nowhere else to go, I had to make this happen. So I was a hardcore door-to-door salesman selling portable exhibits, much like you might see at some of the smaller shows.
Yeah, we have one for Security Guard Radio. They're great. I love them.
That was me knocking on your door 20 years ago. But what happened was as I grew in my little world, it's a longer story here, but basically I had the opportunity in 1987 to buy the product from the company that was, selling out. So in 1987, I took my little company, Folio Exhibits, and just grew it nationally. I sold it in 1998 and retired at the age of 39. So I just somehow my creativity, really, honest to God, came out of just survival. And then in 2004, in December, a lot of my ex-employees flew down to meet with me in St. Petersburg, Florida, and said, "Paul, if you'll start a business back up again, we'll work for you again." And that was the beginning of BlueHive in 2005.
That's a fantastic story. And Bristow, that's what we do, right? I mean, we don't have an advertising agency. And sometimes it's successful and oftentimes not, but I do all my own social media and graphics and promos, and I do all that stuff. And when you have to do it, you just figure out a way to do it.
Right. You survive.
And you get better at it, hopefully, as you go, right? Our first show was, in fact, you can't find the first Security Guy Radio show anymore, Paul. It's gone.
Thank God.
Thank God. It got lost somehow. I don't know what happened to that show. But we get a little bit every week. But again, it's, necessity is the mother of invention, and you come up with it. So your perspective, as in my perspective, I didn't know a thing about radio, really, when I started. And I just said, I'm going to go do it. And then I learn as I go. And it's a different perspective than somebody that walks into an industry and says, okay, I'm an ad executive. Okay, well, this isn't Bewitched, and you're not Darren and Durwood, and you're not doing the ad show on the and making up funny stories. You're saying, if I don't make this work, I'm not going to get a paycheck today. Different motivation than somebody that's actually gets paid. Very, very interesting.
Paul,
go ahead, Paul.
Got a quick question for you, Paul. Is there any particular industry that takes more note of what you tell them?
Oh, that's a good question.
That are more open to suggestions and all that sort of stuff, or less to that.
Actually, it's not so much the industry, but the clients we're winning are the ones that will listen to us.
Okay.
Say that again. The clients that are...
So it runs across all industries then?
Yeah, it is, because what we're trying to do is find those, it goes back to creating someone to making sure they feel safe with us, because really all industries, all people going to all these shows need the same thing, that is attention. So if people in the accounts we're winning are those who are saying, God, we want you guys to put that kind of enthusiasm in designing our booth that you did that person's booth.
Now, you can do all that, but again, depending on their widget, they might not be able to sell it. So it's not a guarantee, but it's certainly in the right direction. If somebody's not selling and they're doing everything you tell them to do, and it's not selling, do you find that people... How do I phrase this? So do you have like one-time booth guys that say, okay, I'm going to try it, and then it doesn't work and they give up, or they just stick at it for a couple shows?
Truthfully, I don't think there are too many customers we're bringing in here who've never done it before. I think what most of the customers we're bringing in have come in here having had what you just described, bad experiences, because the people they work with didn't think outside the box or didn't pay much attention.
That's interesting.
If their product has a value, we're gonna get them noticed.
Now, have you ever had a client that you've actually said, you know what, you shouldn't show?
That's possible.
No, but I'll tell you what we have done. If they aren't going to do it right, we tell them hold on and put it off for another year.
No, that's a good point.
Okay.
Yeah, you're being honest with them, saying, hey,
well, that's good.
Yeah, your plan's not feasible, so to speak.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm the same guy that, you walk the hallways here, you'll know I have sent checks back to people when we realize, look, this isn't your time. I will not take your money. I'm here for the long haul. So, but that's where our reputation started to precede us.
What's the largest sort of, booth's not a good word really, because these aren't booths. It's a build out. It's a mini house.
I'm looking at the website now. This is unbelievable stuff.
Blue-hive.com. Blue-hive.com. People should log in and take a look at that. Yeah, this is beautiful stuff. I mean, it reminds me a lot of a production, and it's like Pirates of the Caribbean set. Hey, Paul Hanlon, come over here and build us a trade show for this movie set, or make it look like it's an office or something. You're building a production set, really.
Actually, we're building. Are you familiar with Zildjian, the symbols?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, we're now building out their whole museum in their facility that has nothing to do with exhibits, but they've hired us because we know how to brand a product. So as they're retrofitting their facility, we're doing it in museum-style quality.
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah, Zildjian, they're number one. They've been around forever. Yeah. Now, what would I want to get into costs. I'm not going to put you on the spot for that kind of thing, obviously, because that's all driven by all kinds of factors. But how small a client could you take? Instead of me going to Signorama with a pop-up that cost me $250, a little pop-up banner, and I got a budget for $10,000. Can you help out a smaller person, or are you looking more at the larger trade show floor stuff?
No, that's a great question too, because 80%, right, is SMB, small medium businesses, right? And that's the kind of the client that you service as well, Paul, right?
That's correct. We start out. We can do something for you for $5,000.
Oh, okay. So that's not beyond the reach of most businesses, really.
No, it's not. It's not. And we do not turn down anybody who's got a valid budget. And if 5,000 is what they got, that's what we're going to work with.
All right, so let's walk me through the logistics of this, because I don't think people understand how much is involved. So I'm going to call you guys up next week and say, let's build a Security Guy radio booth at ASIS. We're going to send out with a design team. We'll talk to you first about some ideas, about the brand, how it might be a return on my investment. But where's the manufacturing go on? How do the booths get out there? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in all this stuff.
Yes, sir. A lot. Well, the the events really start with them showing us what they've done in the past, explaining to us what has not worked and why they felt it hasn't worked.
Oh, okay.
And how we might have approached it differently, because we really want to sort of compare apples to apples. Then moving forward, we look at what they're trying to target, what shows they're trying to target, what booth space size they're trying to work within, why are they going to a show, such as if, major competitors going there. We try to make certain it all makes sense, because we have to then establish a budget that they feel comfortable with, and that we're realizing, all right, if you're going to spend it, let's make certain we're as effective as possible. So it may not be that they do 7 shows. We may pare it down to doing only 4. It just depends what they're trying to get out of it.
Are they coming to you for the creative side of the design, or do they bring their design team and say, build this for me?
No, we're all creative. They're coming in and saying, help us out.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought it would have been the reverse. See?
No, actually, imagine your house being put into 30 crates and set up 4 times across the country.
It would only take 10. It's very, very small, but go ahead.
That's okay. But the point is, our clients don't have the engineering staff to pull that off. So they come to us to make certain it all works.
I mean, somebody like Disney that we worked for, or Fox, they have their own internal thing that handles that stuff, I would suppose, and they can do that. But an average company, you're right, they're not going to have that ability. Do you build locally, or do you build and ship from your headquarters?
We build and ship from our headquarters here in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Oh, interesting. And then who assembles? A local team assembles it, or the?
It depends, but we have storage facilities in Utah, Vegas, Atlanta, and Orlando. So depending on shows, we can store across the country. And then depending on the show, it depends who we send to doing the management. That's very flexible.
So you might, in your price, you might include a guy that gets on the plane, comes out, organizes a setup, teaches them how to, make it work and look right, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and absolutely, yeah. And then that's where the troubleshooting comes in, because Murphy's Law always shows up.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We're missing. It's like that stuff I get, at IKEA that's missing 3 bolts, and they swear they're in the package. I know. That's how it goes.
Right. Yep.
Now, if the 3 big markets are Chicago, Orlando, and what was the other one? I can't remember. Vegas. What other markets do you guys work in that you and I wouldn't be thinking of? Because when you think convention, you think those places really, but there's thousands of these things. And these statistics, I was amazed at listening to some of these organizations that have conventions, and I'm going, really? The International Woodworking Fair? I never would have guessed, The Rentals Show, the National Associations of Convenience Stores, right?
Well, let's go back. The trade show industry is an industry of itself. Every major city wants to have trade shows visiting because it helps the local communities, the restaurants, the hotels. So there is a show somewhere in some major city every month. It's not, so it's driven by the local business leaders who are building new hotels, who want to then bring a convention center. So they're everywhere. But they happen to, unfortunately, be competing with the big boys you mentioned earlier. Now, so Boston does not get the draw Vegas does, but they're trying.
Right, because there's a value in, Paul and I would go to ASIS and then, okay, there's 5 minutes looking at the booths. Let's go out and do something fun now, actually.
Well, speak for yourself.
Oh, well, Mr. Brown and Tan pint in his hand all the time. Okay, all right. So if I'm, do you know much about the security involved in these trade shows? Do you ever work with the security people at the shows?
Paul Hanlon, no, I don't.
Yeah, because that's something we always find interesting. When we were trying to do a show or bid on a show, it's kind of it's a real specific club. In other words, whoever runs trade shows decides who gets to get in the trade show, who gets to work at the trade show and support the trade show.
It's a sponsor. It's the sponsor.
Yeah.
Truck.
Yeah.
So in this case, whether it's Securitas or Allied Barton, all those folks are the major sponsors of those events, and respectively, they usually utilize those guards, if you will, for the security around the perimeter.
Now let's talk about your business model, Chucky, because you are maybe I'm not describing this properly, but I think I am. You're in essence, you're kind of a digital trade show through networking, right? So your booth is the 30,000 people in your membership that connect to each other and talk to each other socially. Have you ever actually done a show yourself for your social media network?
Have not done a show. That's not the model that we built around. Obviously, with 100 countries that we touch with Friends of Chuck, no, the answer is no to that.
So
Paul, we're basically a virtual piece of it,
right?
And we'd love to do that, but as part of that. I really, I want to say something about blue-hive.com, and you do have to go to the website and appreciate the quality of what they're doing. Paul, my hat's off to you, because what a great idea to take social media and make that part of the entire experience that you are building, which you can put in a crate and put anywhere in the world, part and partial. So you get people in person, face to face, which for me is the most important part. And then secondly, you're touching people all over the world virtually. It's kind of like being on a boat offshore and onshore. You have both pieces covered. What a great, terrific idea. Great value.
Are you
No
first in the
question about
space
it.
on that, Paul? Is BlueHive first in the space doing that kind of thing?
As far as I know, sir, unless someone tells me different.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I just researched and I couldn't find anybody that did both of those things. Now,
It's a great idea.
do
Terrific.
most of your clients take you up on that part of it?
Most of them are starting to, but again, it goes back. Again, everything goes right back to the human nature, and that is being safe.
Right.
Yeah.
So we do baby steps, because we're not here to sell a product. We're trying to help them sell a product, and as soon as they feel more confident, we're moving everyone forward, because ultimately they have to have it, like you have to have a fax machine.
Now, do you have any security companies that are clients that you build booths for that you wanted to give a plug to or mention or talk
That's
about?
interesting.
Well, we have Sony, we have S2 Securities, we have Talkaphone, we have Mobotics, and Zentron, I guess, if not more.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those booths. Very nice. Sony's is a beautiful booth.
Yeah.
That's huge. So now you go to Sony, they build the booth, you're helping them with design, all that kind of thing. And you're saying, hey, I'm not saying Sony specifically. You don't have to answer it that way, but a company like that. What are you telling them about the social media aspect that they may not have thought about as it turns to trade shows? Because trade shows, like you said, have been around since Christ, and we've only had social media for the last, really 10 years effectively. What do you tell them that you're going to do that's going to handle it? One thing I might do if I was building trade shows is I would start tweeting out in the production factory. Look, I'm building their booth right here 3 months earlier, 5 months early. I'm building the booth, and here's what we're going. Get the buzz out before the show even starts.
Well, that's, and I'm repeating myself. What we try to do is hit people 4 months in advance of the show.
4 months,
get
right?
interest before, after, and during. But what we're really trying to do is not just have a show, but we're trying to help them create experiences for people.
Yeah, it's an event.
Correct.
The build, the design, it's all an event.
That goes beyond simply someone flying out to a show, seeing somebody. This is something I guess you're anticipating the movie. You see the movie, and then you're remembering the movie.
Oh, that's a good way. It's like a trailer. That's a great way to put it.
Thank you. God, that's a good word.
Yeah, it's a great way. You can use that. Security Guy Radio gives away everything for free. So tell us why you've kind of told us why you guys seem to be distinguished from other people, but I assume you're one of the top people in your space in the business?
I'll leave that to everyone's judgment, but I obviously think so.
Okay. Well, I'm just talking about, how many people are in this space. How many competitors that do this sort of thing? Is there thousands of companies or a couple dozen? What is it?
Truthfully, anybody with a table saw and a rack of wood and can draw a picture can be a competitor.
Oh, that's interesting.
But in order to pull off what we pull off, there are very few people.
So what's
Now, Paul, do you have your own booth?
Yes. We actually, I just mentioned earlier, our own booth at 2 shows, Exhibitor Live and HCEA, one in Vegas and one in Denver. Our booth twice this year won Best of Show.
Very interesting. Now,
okay.
do you put a booth in every show that you work on?
No. We exhibited ourselves at the Exhibitor Live, our own industry show.
Your own industry. Okay. All right.
And then one other one, which is healthcare industry.
So now, why wouldn't you do one at ASIS? I'm just curious. If I was the CEO, I might think, you know what? Maybe I'll try it one year and see if I get these, crappy looking booths to come over and see ours. I don't know. Just wondering.
I just don't think it would be beneficial to go after. I don't know. Actually, I haven't gone there.
All right. Well, it's all about return on investment, and you guys know best.
But, the other thing too is it's not our world. Personally, as BlueHive, we need to keep focused on what we do well, and not don't distract from our clients.
Well, how do clients find you? I guess that's what I'm getting at. So if you go to your industry trade show, is Sony going to your industry trade show to find somebody to build a booth? Is that who comes to those trade shows? Or is it the people in the industry themselves that come to your type of trade show for that?
most of it is word of mouth, but the word of mouth starts at a show. When someone sees Sony's booth being set up meticulously, the attention to details there, and they then measure how their booth's being set up compared to who they're working with. Somebody asks somebody who did that. That's one way. Second, being that we're at our own industry show, there are those people who meet us. In this particular case, we won Best of Show. Obviously, we're getting a lot of notice there, but a lot of it mostly is word of mouth.
Well, I think we should put in a word for the Tournament of Roses parade, because some of those floats are kind of sleazy looking. Especially our Burbank one, I must say, wasn't the greatest last year. But in theory, you guys could build that, right?
Yeah, yes, it's true. We've built up movie theaters. We're outfitting Mount Sinai Hospital in Queens right now. And we're into things you can't even imagine because people want the quality product. And it doesn't have to be fancy. Museums. I guess I wish I could tell you more. We're working in the Empire State Building as we speak.
Oh, that's I was just there about a year and a half ago. That's a beautiful, beautiful building.
And we're building out some of the larger conference rooms for some of the mega owners there. Just because we also work in high-end mahogany.
Oh, I know. You ever use curly maple?
Sir, that I'm not certain.
So that's about $125 a linear foot.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. I don't think so. I haven't heard that budget come across.
We remember the boss's conference table, Paul, at Fox.
Oh yeah.
$125,000 one conference table with this curly maple on it.
Yeah.
So it can get really expensive, but it looks beautiful.
And then they didn't like it.
And then they don't like it. That's right.
Because nobody asked them.
All right. So,
Hey.
Go ahead, Chuck.
So, Paul, I did have a question. So, the real value that blue-hive.com is actually giving the client, because, like you said, anybody can take a piece of wood, bandsaw, you get busy and put something together. It's really the creative that your team brings to the table, understanding the customer, understanding the widget, understanding what success looks like for them. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but I want to add one more thing that's highly, highly important, and that is execution. Because if you can't execute even the fanciest design, why bother?
Right, and then it all falls apart in the execution. Well,
Yeah,
I think most corporations, from business things I've read, that failure to execute is the number one reason the product goes down, not the product.
Yep. You know what? I'm going to tell you one more thing. That's somewhat off subject, but when people ask us to hand them our client list or a referral list, very often we'll say, "Here's our referral list." Don't ask them how great we are. Ask them how great we are when things go wrong.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's the test of character. Because stuff happens, but when we execute, we fix things. It's done. That builds trust.
Yeah, that is that. Well, it's the same thing in our security business. If my guard doesn't show up, everybody understands that their employees don't show up. What am I going to do about it to fix the problem? And if you can't execute the problem fixing, you're out. That's the thing.
That's correct.
Do you guys work with ad agencies? Do ad agencies come in and say, on behalf of my client, I want you to build something, and do they bring in their advertising flair to it? Because from what I'm hearing, frankly, you seem to have a better handle on the advertising promotional aspect than some of the companies that do that for a living, so to speak.
Yeah, they really, ad agencies see us, unfortunately, and I want to express that, unfortunately, as a threat. I wish they don't, that they didn't, but they do. So we don't have too many tight relationships.
Well, they're really like their print, the traditional ad agency stuff, getting the word out that way. And I would think it'd be natural for them to consider this part of their business, but I guess it's just a separate thing. I assumed, by the way, before I started researching this, that, the advertising companies ran and drove these sort of productions and drove building these booths and things like that. But it's really your industry, and it's a whole separate function. It's an art form, really. I mean,
it is, but in BlueHive in particular, people who get to know us know that we're doing a ton here. And I think some people are afraid of exposing us to some other product that we're going to end up absorbing and making it our own. I'm surrounded. We have such a culture here that we are so entrepreneurial, which is something I do push, and I personally do not micromanage. So everyone here is thinking of what's the next thing we can do, what's the next product we can produce, what's the next service we can offer.
Right. So if you're going to give advice, and we got about 5 minutes left, Mr. Jarvis, roughly. So tell us how you would, what you advise people listening on why we want to come to BlueHive and what value we're going to get from coming to you guys. So distinguish yourself. Now's your time to really carve out why you're better. And I think you are, by the way. Just from what I've seen and looked at, it's different than most. I look at other people's manufacturers, and I look at you guys as a production company. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Correct. However, what we are currently doing, which we're bragging about, is we are physical to digital.
The spectrum, which you cover.
There's nothing we can't do, and we are not handcuffed by anything.
Give me an example of your most unique challenge you've had. You don't have to name names of customers. That's okay. But just something that was really kind of for you, an entrepreneur that's a go-getter. What was something you kind of went, wow, that's a big one. We're going to do it. We're going to solve it.
Well, the unique here has become usual.
All right, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
It is. I'm telling you, I wish you were physically here. I'd walk into the facility and I'd point to things and going, I have no idea how they're getting that done, but isn't that cool?
Well, Security Guy Radio may have to take a trip. I travel. I travel quite a bit, and get out the old GoPro camera and take pictures and stuff.
I'm going to tell you what, you would have some fun here. You would understand. I tell you, you walk the halls here. Everything I've shared with you, you'd see a bounce in everyone's step. You see energy unlike others, and we're not the biggest company, but I got to tell you what. As I tell people, never underestimate unbridled enthusiasm.
Oh no, that's true. That's how we keep our show going. It's not from revenue, that's for sure. Oh man,
somebody out there somewhere.
There's somebody, absolutely. Yeah. Well, this is really interesting. When we started this, I always research what I'm trying to speak about, so I don't only sound like half an idiot. And I was just kind of surprised that this is such a big industry, and people still utilize it and still go for it. Chucky, you had talk about product placement and logos and stuff. I just remember Paul talking about how big your logo is and quality of your shirt. You guys are giving away pink cowboy hats at your Texas Nights thing, right?
Yes, as the women in security are all coming to Texas Night, how appropriate is that?
Yeah, but you don't have a big giant logo on it. It's just something that's associated with the event, and it makes it effective, and people like that kind of stuff. I got to come up with something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paul, what can I give away for Security Guy Radio that people are gonna? You got to give me some ideas on how to get our show. Some kind of gadget. I don't know what I could do. I was thinking of a Security Guy Radio coffee mug, so when you tip it up, you can see the logo on the bottom. But most of the time, you're not looking at it. I'm not sure.
What about a bobblehead?
A Security Guy Radio
You'd
bobblehead.
make a great bobblehead, Chuck.
I'd make a great bobblehead. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if that's a backhanded compliment or what.
It'd never be a compliment.
We should push a little button where you talk and it says Security Guy Radio or something like that. That's kind of funny. All right, well, gentlemen, we're going to go out just in a few minutes. Paul, let's give your website one more time and any specific things like emails or people you want to get a hold of or how we should contact BlueHive and blue-hive.com.
Well, if you want to contact me personally, it's Hanlon at blue-hive.com. But first, please check out our website.
All right, blue-hive.com. Excellent. And Chuck Andrews over there, give us your website for the Texas Night Shindig that'll be at Anaheim this year for ASIS at Downtown Disney.
Absolutely. www.asisregion3c.org for all the details. We'll see y'all there.
All right, excellent. Mr. Bristow, thanks for calling in from Points Unknown as usual. And join us next week, Monday night, 7 o'clock on Security Guy Radio. Follow us on, hold on a second to get my card out. Follow us on SoundCloud, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Google+, Instagram, and Tumblr. I got it right. And get the app. Don't forget the Security Guy Radio mobile app for all your Security Guy shows. Until next week, good night.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Hasta la vista.